Hi there, Rick here. I want to talk to you about the founding fathers, okay, of Confederation, the history of United States, okay. These are some of the pictures of them, okay. And I was gonna say that these guys, I felt that they're very smart men, okay. Um, the reason why I say that is because they they made the financial system, okay, in a way that, okay, it was uh just more of an honest system, okay. um for example, okay, they um they stated, okay, in their their constitution, okay, only gold and silver could be considered legal tender, okay. And the reason why they say this too, okay, is because they lived, okay, in their lifetime, okay, they um they experienced hyperinflation, okay, and they saw what paper money um could do to the financial system, okay. That's why they saw the dangers, okay, of paper money, okay. And they said that, okay, only gold and silver could be legal tender, okay. Like, they they lived through a period of time when paper currency, okay, had really serious problems, okay. And they wanted to make sure, okay, future generations wouldn't implement um, the same sorts of mistakes that they had in their generation, okay. um, that would cause kind of like a financial disaster, okay. um, if you okay if one of these guys was alive today, right, and to see how far, okay, United States had advanced, okay. um you would have to explain to them, okay, credit cards, how credit cards worked, okay. um telling them, okay, you could buy things with this plastic card, okay, you could buy things on credit, okay. And of course, one of the founding fathers of Confederation would have said, um, well, how does the system payment work? Okay, well, just so long as you pay the minimum amount uh, on the balance that you own, okay, they won't take away your credit card, okay, and then you know they would say, is this system even working? Um, well, I was going to say, to a degree, right? Because there have been people that have so much money, um, on their credit cards that, it's so hard for them to pay it back. Okay. And then there's the other, I would say probably more responsible people, that have, balances on their credit card and they pay it back. Okay. Um, so these guys were very smart in terms of finance, okay. And I felt that, okay, they ran a very honest system, okay. We probably wouldn't have as much problems compared to um, if you know if one of these guys, or more than one of these guys, could um, just dictate, how the financial system, how the financial system worked, okay, or how it could work. If you let them, control more on how the financial system worked, gold would probably, play a very important role in it, okay? Would probably play a lot more important role in the financial system today, okay? Um, I'm sure if these guys back in 1971, okay, um, were advisors to, President Nixon, right? They would have never taken off the dollar off the gold standard, okay? The knowledge between the five of these guys, okay, was probably, just a lot, okay? It's accumulation of, probably, hundreds of years, okay, um, of financial knowledge, okay, put together between their five brains, right? Because they lived through, okay, of time where, for example, okay, the continental dollar, okay, it was worth $1 at the start, okay, it was first printed, okay, and then it went to down as low as like 10 cents on the dollar, okay. So probably maybe one of these guys, okay, um, he witnessed on the decline of the continental dollar to the point where, it became almost worthless, okay, nothing, okay, and he shared this knowledge between the other four guys, okay, just saying how, this is the problem of printed money, fiat currency, right? We need a system where the dollar, okay, will hold its value, right? The dollar to gold, okay. So if more dollars get printed, okay, the value of gold will go up, okay. Just more of a kind of like an honest system, okay, and a system um, where you just can't print, okay, huge amounts of money, okay, and cause it to have just big fluctuations too in value, where it'll go down, right? Consumer prices will go up, the value of the dollar will go down, you'll be able to buy a lot less, okay. I'll say that again just because I just feel that that's a very important statement right there, okay. The price of consumers goods will go up, and the value of the dollar will go down, okay. Just to give you an example of that, okay, I remember when liter of gas, okay, was $1 a liter, okay. Now it's sometimes it goes up to $2 a liter. It fluctuates down to $1.70, $1.75, $1.80, right? But look at the price of gasoline, right? It's I would say that it's doubled, okay, in the past 5 years or so, okay. Well, actually, probably more than 5 years, because I think it's been more than 5 years since a liter of gas was $1. But I remember when liter of gas was $1, people were complaining. They were saying, "Oh, it's too high, it's too high," But if it ever went down to $1 a liter again, people would start saying, wow, gas is so cheap, so cheap. But even, look at the price of a lot of fruit these days, in the supermarket. Um, the price of a lot of fruit these days is almost like $1 a fruit, okay? And, it could easily, in the next few years go to a lot higher than that, okay? But, I like these guys, just because, like I say, uh, they were quite smart, okay, and they knew a lot about finance, and they wrote a constitution to try to prevent future generations of leaders from making the same mistakes that they made, okay, when they were alive in their period, okay, because these guys, okay, if they were in control of the financial world, well, if they're in control of the U.S. dollar, okay, through the generations, okay, they wouldn't have taken, the U.S. dollar off of the gold standard, right? They may have not even allowed credit cards to, come into existence, just because, they probably would have studied it a lot more, okay, on how, people could make purchases with it, okay, and how, the banks would, collect, on them, okay. I'm sure, out of these five guys, okay, there was probably one that, just really stood out in terms of, finance, right? And, they kind of like, appointed him as, leader, right? You just look at, some of the things that, Canada and even United States, okay, are in the situation that they are in right now. For example, every 99 days, okay, the United States is paying as much as $1 trillion in interest, okay. Canada Post, okay, is losing, close to $1 billion every year, okay. It's kind of like, gotten to a point where, everything is going to explode, okay? Because, it's not sustainable, okay? When you have like a $1 trillion interest that you're paying out, Canada Post, right? Just, losing $1 billion every year. Like, I mean, how long can that go on before, somebody throws in the towel and says, we have to claim bankruptcy. We just, cannot continue on the path that we're on right now.